Yo, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. I hope you guys enjoyed the video today. David Riccio has come out and broken news that the Gold Coast Titans is willing to allow Alofiana Khan-Pereira to talk to the New Zealand Warriors on a move to come to New Zealand. So guys, I want to get the lay of the land. I want to give you my thoughts overall on the move and also hear what you guys have got to say in the comment section down below. Today I'm going to go through the positives, the negatives, and my overall sentiment around the move because I had a lot of talking to a lot of good mates of mine, a lot of good people that are in good places that have been around Khan-Pereira and also some Warriors fans and see what their thoughts are. So we've got a really good round of view here, guys. So make sure if you enjoyed this sort of video, like and subscribe down below. And it's been a little while since I've done a video like this. So guys, make sure you smack the like button if you enjoy this sort of content on the channel. So guys, first of all, Khan-Pereira, I want to talk about what he is as a player, what he can bring to the New Zealand Warriors, what's his positives and what's his downfalls and where that kind of sits with the New Zealand Warriors as a club right now. So moving over to his NRL profile right here. So Khan-Pereira, 23 years old, so still very, very young, still in the early parts of his career. Obviously, his try scoring tally is unmatched at the moment. I think it's probably the best ratio in the league right now. That's going to be chasing, obviously, we all know Alex Johnson chasing the overall record. Khan-Pereira, if he's able to continue and find a first grade gig and continue on his way and go for a long period of time, he could be one of those guys that could be rivaling that in the future, even though I do think it's going to be a little bit longer before someone actually breaks that record, because what Alex Johnson has done has been incredible, but this is a guy that has the ability to do that in the future. So just the 2025 season alone, not his greatest season. Obviously, we do know the Gold Coast Titans have not been playing him consistent football this year, and there has been a little bit of rumors around why they haven't done so. I'm not going to go into like more of the personal sort of stuff, you know, the off sort of field sort of stuff that I've kind of, you know, some people have alluded to in that sort of sense, but his on-field sort of ability, you can kind of see by his stats where he kind of sits as a football player right now, and his potential, his ability, but also his downfalls at the moment, and whether that kind of fits what a lot of the Warriors fans have, you know, especially with what Warriors fans have labeled maybe one type of player and what he could bring that could be very similar to that player, but also what could be a little bit more of an uptick in that area. But looking at his appearances here in 2025, 10 appearances, 9 tries, so obviously continuing on that try scoring ratio, just absolutely incredible, nearly a try a game. When you look at his overall, he's only 1 try off the amount of appearances that he's had. That's absolutely incredible. So more than likely, Khan-Pereira is going to score in each and every game that you're going to see him in by ratio sort of looks there. Try assist there, it's not always too high. He's a guy that usually is off the back of a line break. He's going to be there in support. He's usually a guy that's going to finish a lot of tries in space, and we will touch on that and how that sort of looks in New Zealand Warriors with their shape and whether that will work out for our side in the future. Tackle breaks here, 21. Not the highest sort of tally with tackle breaks. Obviously, it's more of that, again, going back to it, he's a guy that usually finishes in space. So those tackle breaks are coming on like one-on-one defenders in last-ditch effort moments. So he's getting those tackle breaks in those sort of areas. I don't look at Alofiana Khan-Pereira as like a winger, like a Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, or even like a Dallin Watene-Zelezniak, who we're going to be touching on a little bit more in the video, as those tackle breaking type of wingers. When you look at the upper echelon of that, you got your Brian To'os and that. I don't see Khan-Pereira in that same sort of up, like that echelon. He's definitely just a guy that's very, very quick, and he's got his really good finishing ability. He's a very good support player, and I think I will touch on that a little bit more in the future. 11 line breaks, so he's good at that. The one key area is something I do want to be touching on in more of the negative side of Alofiana Khan-Pereira, and also goes back to a lot of discussions about some other players who have the New Zealand Warriors right now. So tackle wise in 2025, he's tackling at 64.6%. And why, like, you know, I am a big predicated on using stats in the right way. And also you got to use the eye test as well. So Khan-Pereira, for me, tackling wise, he's a smaller body. He's probably never going to have the ability to be a very good tackler or like a very good defensive winger in any sort of sense of the world because of his frame. And more than likely, you don't really want him to be that. You don't want to put too much muscle on his frame to get him better in these areas, but you want his reads to be better. And I think that's the one key area with his defense that I think is actually very, very poor. I mean, it goes into a bigger discussion with Dallin Watene-Zelezniak and his defensive inabilities. Defensively, Dallin, one-on-one making tackles, he's actually very, very high in this area. And I want to jump over to Dallin's stats here, guys, because not to say Dallin's going to be the position he's going to take over, because more than likely what I've seen out of Khan-Pereira, he plays on the left side. Dallin's a right-sided winger at the moment, the Warriors. But we got Roger Tuivasa-Sheck there for a year or two as well. Both these guys are getting towards the end of their contract. Maybe there's an ability of pushing Roger to the right side and Dallin dropping out, which a lot of Warriors fans will be calling for. But if you look at the defensive stats of Dallin, obviously it does look at, it's actually not too bad. And it's actually not as bad as what people think it is comparatively to a winger. But his reads, again, guys, are very predictable in the sense of, I think the Warriors system, if you actually check for a long period of time, and this is what I've argued on Wise Up TV, guys, go shout out Wise Up TV if you want to see any more of my content of Warriors stuff. But if you actually watch how our system works out when we get beats by numbers from our inside, so a lot of what our defensive breakdowns happen have actually come from the inside, and Dallin's being that last ditch. You know, a lot of people are just pointing out Dallin, but he's actually trying to fix up the issues with, speed and pressure to cut down time and cause an error out of the wingers. Sometimes he can get himself caught in no man's land going for the intercept, but I think he's been a little bit better into that lately than he has been in Privy. But if you actually, a lot of people have been calling for Tane Tuapiki into that wing role again. But if people actually go back and watch games like the Manly Seagulls game where we got beaten on an edge very consistently, if you go look at the Cowboys game where we got beaten on the edge very consistently, the same sort of look happened each and every time. And all our wingers that have been posted up on both edges have made the same decision. We are very much an up and in team. We like to cut down time and pressure and allow a team to actually cause a very a low percentage play to beat us on the outside. And it's on the ability of those other sides, whether they have a fullback that can make that 3-on-2 cutout pass, whether they can want to put it through the hands very quickly. Because more than likely, the variable is if you pass the ball out of your hands, that ball can go each and every way. We're talking about an oval ball here. We're not talking about a round ball. There's a lot of inconsistencies to a rugby ball. The high percentage play for any team is to run first. So what the Warriors want to do is cut off time and pressure from the inside, compact everything in, and shut off, a lot of those inside reads and running reads. So teams don't beat us on the inside shoulder. Teams have to beat us on the outside and use that little bit of space on the outside to be an extra defender between the sideline and that. So that's kind of how it works out. So when I look at both of Khan-Pereira and Dallin Watene-Zelezniak, as tacklers in themselves, Dallin is the better tackler, and that statistically shows out here because Dallin is the bigger body. Khan-Pereira actually makes the worst of reads from what I've seen personally, but this could be argued obviously off eye test and debatable between coaching staffs and stuff like that. But what I would say to this again, guys, what I kind of touched on before is our system is very simple and very, a lot of the reads are very similar each and every time. Khan-Pereira can definitely improve in this area to where he makes the right read majority of the time under Webby's tutelage. And Webby has shown that defense is usually our first facet that we worry about in our game. So I think that this could be an area where he can definitely improve on, and it really depends on his mindset coming over from the Titans, because I do believe if he does come over, he's not going to get a first grade squad straight away, because Webby likes to make people work for their positions. And even at times, they get to a point where an injury will happen, and that's when they get to able to show their ability on first grade for Webby to even look that way. And a lot of times Webby will end up making them work to get those positions. We've seen that with our juniors coming through as well, and that's the safest way to go about it. And that's where I'll come to my overall judgment of a Khan-Pereira move, where this could be a very free throw at the stumps because of a guy that has been playing in and out of first grade. He's looking to getting back into a first grade. If it doesn't work, I don't think we're going to be throwing big money at him because he hasn't got a consistent first grade spot right now anyway. But if he does work, he could be a guy that has a lot of upside, that what a lot of people have been waiting for with their speed and his finishing ability. But there's other areas that I do want to point out as well that he does need to improve on right there too. So averaging running meters for the season in 2025, he did get to 137 overall in his career. He sits around that 120 mark, so he has had an uptick in his running meters. So he has got a little bit better, but it's not coming out of the kick return portion of the game, and that's where the Warriors system actually we need a winger that's very good at getting out of the back end, because our whole system is very similar to Penrith and similar to the Dogs. Our wingers and our back line is great to get into yardage, and that's what it always has been. And that's what Dallin actually does a lot better than Khan-Pereira, especially out of the back end. So obviously Khan-Pereira has gotten a lot better this season, and this is a down season for Dallin Watene-Zelezniak, but Dallin usually sits at around 150 per game, and that's very, very solid for a winger. But as you kind of notice with kick return meters, Dallin is a lot better of working out of his back end with that 525 there, 657 and 325. Khan-Pereira, as we see here, is more than likely getting up to that 350 mark out of the back end. So we're looking at a guy that is not going to do a ton of work out of the back end. His main facet of his game is open space, support play, and finishing ability. And now the question really comes to, Is Khan-Pereira really suited to the Warriors system in that sort of sense of the word? So when you look at some of the top teams in the competition or systems are very similar to ours, I go back to what I was saying before. A lot of Warriors fans have been calling for speed. And I agree, we do probably need a little bit of X factor and speed in certain areas to probably break open the game. And this guy has that in every facet of like his speed, his top end speed with his support play. He's probably going to turn like little half breaks into 6 points at the end of the day. But where he does lack is in those consistent areas of, working out of his back end, getting us into field position, into points of the field to where we can allow players like Luke Metcalf and that to kind of work on their attack. And usually our forward pack don't have to take the brunt of getting us into field position so they can work on their defensive movements, which helps with our defense at the end of the day. What we want as a system is very similar to Penrith, why they have Brian To'o, Alamonte, Thomas Jenkins, that don't have the high upside of what a Khan-Pereira have in speed, but they have the consistent basis of the game locked in, down packed. You look at even the Melbourne Storm with the Xavier Coates and Will Warbrick. Again, they don't have that, smaller body, high end speed type of player, a finisher. They have two guys that can work out of their back end, go really well, but also got that extra ability in the air that makes them really hard to deal with in rugby league at the moment. You see the Roosters having, Daniel Tupou and Nwangani Tuase, both not known for their high end speed, but very good at getting out of their back end, get the Roosters in good field position and finishing in the air. I do think the NRL is starting to go back into that like middle realm of you need your smaller bodies and in zippy around the ruck, but it's not so much wingers are going that way. It's more so our wingers are looking big, rangy, and are good in the air, but good at getting into field position. And it's really down to our halfbacks to create space to score tries, not off the back of Khan-Pereira's speed or whatever to score tries at the end of the day. What I would say out of this move, and what makes me a little bit more of, a bit more promising in this move in the sense of what I continue to say, it's a free throw at the stumps, is we got a guy here. Webby has come over to the club, and through his period at the club, there's one thing you can say about Webby. He's got a system that's in place that has improved pretty much nearly every talent that he's had under his tutelage at the New Zealand Warriors. Like, you look at what Jackson Ford was when he came from the Dragons and what he is now. I still think he's very underrated in the sense of like when people look at overall front row performances this year, statistically week in, week out, there was a period there where Jackson Ford was holding up numbers to, Terrell Mays of the world and stuff this year. That was all under Webby and what Webby has been doing. Maratini Kore has been a lot more consistent what he was at the Parramatta Eels under the New Zealand Warriors jersey, and that's a lot of what happened under Webby. You can throw names left, right, and center. Webby has improved them. So does Webby have the ability to get someone like a Khan-Pereira and get a lot of those things into his game, a lot more consistent parts of his game? I don't think Khan-Pereira is ever going to be the guy out of the back end to, push through with post-contact meters, get us into field position in that sort of sense. But, if we get him to, get that part of his game, probably with a Tane Chua-Piki, which he's played a lot of football with back in the days with Burleigh Bears and have a really good connection. If they get together and really, Tane shows him the abilities of what Tane does very well with his deception with the football and whether he can find some inroads in the defense, the upside of him with his speed and his support play. And as Warriors fans, we have been calling with it over the game of the weekend. We had that Kurt Capewell line break. And one of our best support players is definitely out at the moment, which is our halfback and who was a Daily M leading halfback of the year with Luke Metcalf with his speed. Khan-Pereira is going to be the guy that actually be the other guy that can actually finish it on that sort of end as well. It's not just going to be Luke Metcalf. It can be Khan-Pereira be on the inside as well. So, but now I want to give up the argument of like, does he fit into, do we give him the best ability for him to do the best facet of his game, which is try scoring? And do we give him enough space for him to be able to use his speed and be able to finish off these abilities? There's another sort of facet of the Warriors game at the moment where we are a team that, we've had a guy like Dalawati Lesniak on the right-hand side. We've seen the ability of when Sean Johnson had that right side shape humming and he had a lot of space there for Dallin. Dallin was finishing it so well. But in this year, when Dallin's come into the lineup, we've had a lot of, combinational issues on that right edge due to injuries. Rocco Berry, Ali Leatoa, we've had Lek Alasima coming in for Maratini Kore and when he pushed in the middle. And there's been a lot of chop and changing. Metcalf, Tamati Martin and Tanner Boyd have all had spots on that 7 jersey as well. That right edge hasn't been a great combo. It hasn't been built as a combination to be able to allow Dallin to finish on that outside. And again, that's Dallin's best facet of his game is definitely his finishing ability, even though, as I said before, Dallin's very good out of his back end for getting us into field position as well. But, looking at, both players here, what they both have similarities in is definitely their finishing. Even though Khan-Pereira's definitely got the higher end speed, Dallin's finishing is very similar. So has there been enough situations to the Warriors that we've put Dallin Martinez-Lesniak in those positions for him to score those tries? And I would probably say no, not at the moment. Because the inside shape at times has been disjointed in moments. We do preferably like to bash down the middle first of all and really tire out those middle forwards to end up opening our outside shape. Like, this kind of gives the argument as well. I want to throw out there to you guys. Is our shape and that good enough at the moment to be able to get the best out of Alofiana Khan-Pereira in attack? Is the whole reason why we're probably bringing him over into the club, is the speed on his outside to be able to finish these moments. Like, we've already seen Roger. Roger's probably not the greatest finisher in the world, as in a sense of, like, when you watch Khan-Pereira and Dallin, like, they've got the big one-arm finish. They can get up in the corner. They can dive over. Roger's had some really special moments with that as well, but, he's usually a two-handed dive finisher. He's not in that sort of sense of, like, where one hand out, put it in the corner, and moments where we have seen that he had lost possession of the ball with players like AJ Brinson coming over and making try-saving tackles. And that what Roger does very well is cut back inside the defense and cause a lot of havoc in the middle of the field and find line breaks in that sort of sense of the world. And that's not what Khan-Pereira does very well. So that's my other sort of question I have in this move is, are the Warriors' attacking system good enough to actually get the best out of Khan-Pereira in the sense of, like, for him to actually score in really good field position, in really good shape, and finish those little opportunities that we do have? Because that's another argument to a lot of Warriors fans as well, is we don't give probably the most opportunities to our wingers to end up scoring, even though we have probably one of the best statistical areas in the game of getting into the opposition 20. I think we're right up there with the Penrith Panthers and the Bulldogs of, being the team that's more than likely going to get into good field position to score tries. But our shape at times, especially because our combination is getting mixed and matched with injuries, and that with Luke Metcalf coming out of the lineup, do we even give the best ability for, Khan-Pereira to even be put in a position to use his speed to finish off those opportunities? And I think that's a really good question to give out to you guys, and let us know in the comment section down below your thoughts. I think we do. I think in some moments we do, some moments we don't. I think the best ability we can see out of Khan-Pereira is mainly of line breaks and open field play, getting out of our back end. As I said, like the Capewell moment where he's sprinting down the sideline where people don't recognize it. Khan-Pereira back on the inside, that's easy money for anytime try scorer. But as in, like, throwing shape and watching a lot of the highlights of Khan-Pereira of, when he's scoring tries at the Titans, we obviously know the Titans is a high velocity attacking side that usually throw a lot of shape at teams. They throw a lot of, three-man cutouts. They're a Hollywood type team, right? The Warriors aren't a Hollywood type team. Our whole game predicates on defense, field position, getting into position to over killing people with fouls and cuts. Like, that doesn't really look into the best facet of Khan-Pereira's game. So do we suit Khan-Pereira in that sort of sense? It's got to be a marriage. It's got to be two things coming together and create this perfect storm. I think we're able to probably help Khan-Pereira to get to that level, and maybe he could help us in a level. But will that take time? And, that's obviously a question I want to give out to you guys as well, to more food for thought. The last sort of thing is I want to kind of go into what this impacts as the Warriors, and who this impacts in lower grades to end up finding their first grade position, especially when we've got two older wingers at the club at the moment that probably more than likely, guys, I'll probably be honest, they're looking like they're going to be moving on in the future. Like, Roger's already been heavily rumored to Rugby 360 and whatever happens with that move after his contract. Dallin has been at points in his in 2024. I think Catlands came in for him, and I think we've read up him in that period there too. But I think he's got another year. Then he's got an option in his contract to pull out of that last year. So, and more than likely, we're probably going to see the last legs of Dallin Martinez-Lesniak in the next coming years. That gives up two winger position spots. With this move of Khan-Pereira, if that does happen, that's one spot maybe that is right there. Then we got Sio Kali that is in our junior grades that is showing a lot of promise at the moment. The only thing with Sio at the moment is I want to see consistent first grade without injuries. Like, he's had injury problems for his development, so I want to see him fit and raring to go. He's been very well towards the end of this year. He's had a lot of big moments as well, as everyone knows, so he's a very top end talent. But getting Khan-Pereira, and we haven't signed, Sio Kali yet past his development deal of this year. So we're still waiting on his contract talk. So does Khan-Pereira take away from Sio Kali in that sort of sense? Then look even deeper. We've got Hazen Mellors coming over from the Rabbitohs, a very highly talented winger coming from the Rabbitohs, a tall body, a rangy body, great in the air. Hasn't got that top end speed or anything like that, guys, but his work rate out of the back end is very, very solid, and he's great in the air. It goes back to what I said with Xavier Xavier Coates and, Nwanga Nituases and the Daniel Tupos of the world. He's probably more of that sort of realm than he is a Khan-Pereira, right? What's the ability out of him? He was a top 30 prospect in the Rabbitohs. He made a top 30 squad. Our top 30 is getting fairly close to being full. So we signed him. What does this mean? Does Khan-Pereira him fight over for those positions? Then you got Sio Kali there waiting for a contract as well. And then you go further down into the ranks. We got that Brendan Norris that's got a lot of potential, a lot of talent. Definitely unproven against men in New South Wales Cup just yet. And I would love to see that in the future. But he's a guy that's going to be fighting for a contract around a club. And I think a lot of Warriors fans would be sad to see him leave because they see the upside out of him as well. And then if you go even further to that, we got Montu Pasikala that's just come back from injury. Again, he's had some up and down moments, but a lot of people have seen a lot of potential out of him as well. Kahu Kappa we brought over in development contracts. Probably hasn't gone the way he's probably hoped it to, but in the future, if we're able to change a couple of things and he's able to get on the right foot, he could be a devastating winger center that we could have in the future as well. So it's definitely a depth in depth for the Warriors at the moment. At one point, it looked like it was a real dire position. But if you actually take a look at it, if we do bring Khan-Pereira into the door, what does it mean for a lot of those junior kids that want to stick around and maybe if they want to hunt for a first grade contract, do they end up sniffing out somewhere else? Sio Kali's already probably taking a lot of interest from a lot of different other clubs. If we end up fishing for a guy that has been inconsistent in first grade, has, the Gold Coast Titans obviously are not seeing the ability out of him, or not seeing the ability, but maybe there's something going on in that sort of realm of why are they pushing him out? Are we going to take a risk on a guy, bring into the club to end up pushing out probably one of our more major talents, especially when we sign Mellors as well? Do the signings of opposition teams coming over to our club as well, does that maybe hurt some of our other, junior developments in some areas? I know these two things don't correlate, but we just lost Toby Crosby, who's an athletic phenom. Probably not, I'd probably argue his footy IQ stuff is probably the one thing that a lot of people are going to argue why he probably didn't stick around with us for a full-term contract. But, again, when we're looking at contract talks, does bringing over Khan-Pereira, giving him a contract and losing guys like that, how does that kind of sit and how are we kind of feeling in that sort of realm as well? My overall thought, guys, just probably to end off the video, I think that for me, I'm looking at it more as a free throw at the stumps, very similar to what we've done with Morgan Harper, what we've done with Tanner Boyd, and both have worked out in different ways, right? Tanner Boyd has stuck with the club and wanted to develop in New South Wales Cup, and due to injuries, he's had an ability, he's gone up. And I think that he's playing good football. I don't think Tanner Boyd's going to be this top end halfback or anything like that just yet. Maybe he could develop into that in the next coming years. But what I would say is if we didn't have Tanner Boyd in this period, we'd probably see a underdeveloped Jet Cleary get a shot probably a little bit too early. Maybe at Tamade Martin, we'd be back into that 2024 season. And I'd rate Tamade very highly, but you know what I mean? In that sort of sense of Tanner Boyd was a free throw at the stumps that end up sort of working out in a way where he's there. He was killing our New South Wales Cup and our New South Wales Cup was flying. He's giving a lot of developments to these younger kids that are coming in underneath him as well. I think Khan-Pereira is probably going to be a guy that gets into the cup. And if he flies, if he finds, development under him where he gets better defensively, if he gets better, if we work out of his back end, he could be a guy that can be our long-term winger because we do see the big upside that we have with him. But if he doesn't work, I do think that it's just at a point of his career where obviously even the Gold Coast, there doesn't seem to be rumors of many other clubs that are going to be in for him. He's probably not going to come on a big bicky. It feels like that the club in a position where it's pretty much a free throw at the stumps, as I continue to say. If it goes well, it goes well. If it doesn't go well, we'll probably end up seeing a Sio Kali and that come through and fill those positions anyway. So I'm probably a little bit more positive in the move in that sort of sense of the word. I'm a little bit more negative in the move in the sense of I don't know if he fits and I don't know if he's going to be the thing that Warriors fans probably hope him to be. I haven't seen too many comments around it, but I know Warriors fans in the comment section about Dallin Watene-Zelezniak, and what I would argue is Dallin is the better work rate winger out of the back end. Dallin is the better, with the error rate. Khan-Pereira's got some really silly errors in him at times as well. Defensively, Khan-Pereira is not up to Dallin's level. And I know a lot of Warriors fans probably, they obviously very off Dallin with his defensive reads, but I think sometimes that's a systematic thing. Khan-Pereira actually makes really poor reads. I think poorer reads than what Dallin does at times as well. Does he really feed? I know a lot of Warriors fans are calling for speed, but You know, speed comes at a sacrifice. As everything in the world, there's a pendulum. The more you want one thing, the other thing suffers. The more you go for attack, our defense suffers. The more you go for defense, our attack suffers. And there's no perfect side in this world. You just got to lean into what you do really well. And do leaning into what we do really well actually suit Khan-Pereira, or does Khan-Pereira suit us the way we want to play our football? And I think that's a question I want to give out to you guys. I think at the end of the day, you know, there's the ability of him being a good winger, a very, very good winger. He could be one of the best wingers we've seen with his speed and his upside in that sort of sense. But if he can't figure out those other parts of his game, he's going to be very inconsistent. He's going to be another winger that we've seen at the Warriors multiple different times that have all this athletic ability and this upside of like, oh my God, the dreams, guys. But inconsistencies, you know, errors, defensive lapses, a lot worse than probably what we've seen out of wingers at the moment, I believe anyway. Does that just hamper us again, where we could be just continuing to develop what we got in our systems right now? Are kids that are learning our system from a young age, that are going to have a lot more consistency under them, and probably we'll probably find another kid that doesn't have the same attack, like a speed as a Khan-Pereira, but has still enough speed to get around and do enough work, like a Sio Kali. Like, are we kind of going down a realm that we don't really need to, and pushing out someone that could have the upside that we had before, like a Brendan Norris is definitely one I kind of think of when I think of this discussion as well. So guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Again, it has been a little while since I've done a video like this. Again, it might sound like I'm going around in circles, but I want to give you all the information so you guys can make the decision, because in my mind, I'm in the realm of, as I said before, it's a free throw at the stumps. I think it's the ability of, we're giving a guy a little bit of a lifeline to say, hey, come to New Zealand, get everything under check. We want you to develop. We want you to be like Tanner Boyd and develop under our system. If you go well, you got a first grade squad there, and if you work hard, you can get into that first grade squad. If you don't go well, unfortunately, we're going to have to cut ties, and it is what it is. We got these juniors that are coming through, and I think that Webby will prioritize in that sort of sense, and he's shown that in his period at the club. So I believe that either way, I don't see the poorness of it. I don't think he's going to get the first grade squad straight away. So I think that we got the ability to turn this guy into something that a lot of Warriors fans wanted to be. But there's also the ability that it could go the opposite way too. And I do want to give those both sides to you, so you guys can make your own judgment of how you feel about this move in general. But hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure you like and subscribe. Comment down below your thoughts overall. Keep an eye on the channel. I will start doing these videos a little bit more like this in the future again. It's just been a crazy period in my life right now. So, and I'm enjoying it. So that's the biggest thing. So guys, hope you guys enjoyed. Take it easy. Love it to everyone out there. Enjoy your finals football. Up the Wars. Hopefully we can shock the world here. Take it easy. Peace out.